no more Maimar? How can it be there's no more copies of this Maimar? Okay, I'm sorry. If you don't have a copy, you should have a copy. Lev, you should. You're going to have to share. I'm sorry, I thought this was copies of this Maimar, which it's not, which is very strange. It's not one. That is really bizarre. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. You can look on with Yaakov if you want. I'm sorry. Bizarre? Very bizarre. Okay. Okay, we're in the middle of Ois Yud. And in Ois Yud, the Rebbe is starting to explain to us the higher level of bittul of Elyon and Tachton. It comes through Torah. There were 3 levels of mitzvah, 3 levels of limud Torah, and 3 levels of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah that the Rebbe talked to us about. Those correspond to the 3 different levels of reality that are brought into a state of harmony at the time of Matan Torah. The 2 basic states, Elyon and V'tachton, upper realms and lower realms, but that's brought into harmony by virtue of the revelation of a level beyond both. And those 3 levels of reality are expressed in mitzvahs. How are they expressed in mitzvahs? What's the basic level of mitzvah? Mitzvah the Tachton?
As meaning to our lives.
No. Did the Rebbe say that? Did he say that? I don't think so. Right? The first level of mitzvah was what? Mitzvahs anashim milumada, doing mitzvahs by rote. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah. Right.
No? The Rebbe said that we'll do mitzvahs. Maybe, hold on, Zachariah, maybe you're relating to, because there were 2 different levels. There's the performer of the mitzvah and the mitzvah itself, right?
Yeah.
So the performer of the mitzvah is doing mitzvahs. Why? Mitzvah is nefesh tivus. So that was actually quite an amazing thing that the Rebbe explained, that there was such a high level of that was understood as such a tremendous accomplishment. Generally, we talk about people who do mitzvahs by rote as a very low level. So here the Rebbe is talking about it in terms of the positive aspect of it, that a person has come to a point where their nefesh habahamis naturally does mitzvahs, so to speak, without thinking, which is pretty amazing. The second level was Ava, of the nefesh elokis, and the third was the ratzon of the Eibishter. Right? Then the 3 different levels that mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu of doing mitzvahs, mitzaref lahem esabriyas, to elevate creation and to give you and I a chance to actually be a normal, healthy human being. Right? The second level was Darkei Hashem, the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we're emulating the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the opportunity to emulate him. Asher kichanu mitzvah, he does mitzvahs. Right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts on tefillin, whatever that means, and however that's expressed. Right? So therefore, when you and I put on tefillin, we emulate him and walk in his ways. And the third way was the ratzon of the Eibishter again. And that was the level of beyond the Elyon. Talmud Torah, 3 different levels of Talmud Torah. Mm-hmm. There were 2, I mean, we did it twice, right? But just like we did by mitzvahs, one mitzad us and one mitzad the Eibishter. But in terms of Talmud Torah, so why might a Jew, what might the kavanah of a Jew being learning Torah?
To be close to Hashem.
That's not the first level, though. What you're saying is true, but that's not the first level. We have to go Tachton, Elyon, Etzem. There's 3 different levels.
Intellectual.
Oh, b'diuk. That it's your wisdom in the eyes of the people, the intellectual stimulation of learning something so interesting and so amazing, learning Torah. Okay, so there's that level. Now this is mitzad the kavanah of the person learning Torah, and that's mitzad the Tachton. It's mitzad the person down here in Olam Hazeh, and that's, it's a wonderful reason to learn Torah, but obviously there's much loftier and greater reasons to learn Torah. Second reason,
To connect with Hashem.
To connect to a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That's mitzad the Elyon. Nefesh Elokis connects to a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, 5th parak in Tanya. Third level, at this point,
Hashem
That's the second level. That's the second level. That's mitzad the elyon. Tachtein elyon etzem. The essence of the Torah. What's the Torah? The Torah is the Eibishter. Why does he want to learn Torah? Because it's there. Because there's a Torah, and the Torah is elokus. Right? Doesn't have anything to do with intellectual stimulation. Doesn't have anything to do with spiritual elevation. He's learning Torah because the Torah is elokus. It's at the Torah. The Torah is what the Torah is. And it's not a function of him becoming a better person. It's not a function of him becoming a more knowledgeable person. It's not a function of him becoming a more spiritual person. It's not a function of him becoming that meaning in life was brought up, right? All those things are true and they all happen, but that's not that level of Torah. What's that level of Torah? The ultimate level of Torah? It's the Eibishter. The Torah is one with the Eibishter. And where do we see that in Matan Torah? People aren't reviewing this mimer. Where do we see that in Matan Torah? Anochi v'alokecha. What's anochi? This is something you have to remember forever. You can't see this and forget this because you're going to run into this in Chassidus all the time.
That I wrote it myself and gave over.
Beautiful. Okay, so how do we see that in the words? Ana nafshi kosvis yavis. I myself. Now, simple pshat you might think means I wrote it, I gave it. But the Chassidus teaches that I wrote myself into it and I gave myself into it, right? Like it says, "V'yikhu li truma." And Chazal say, "Loikchim oisi," you're taking me, right? Meaning, what's Torah? Torah is the Eibishter. The Eibishter and the Torah are one. So when a person learns Torah, he's connecting to that level. Then we said there were three different levels in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, in Hilchos Talmud Torah. Right? What was the first level? Mitzad Tachton. If you think of Tachton, Elyon, Etzem, so then you should be able to remember these three levels. And if not, they should all be written down somewhere. Right? That's what it means to learn something. Right? And I know that writing down, some people have this allergy to writing down because they're so brilliant they can remember everything and then they just forget it. So I don't know exactly what that's proving and to whom that's proving it, but whatever. It's proving it to me because every time I do this, people don't know the mimer, right? So write it down, right? Okay.
Tachton is learning how to do what we need to do.
Beautiful, right? Learning Torah in order to know what to do. You have to learn halacha to know what to do. And that level of Talmud Torah, that level of Hilchos Talmud Torah is as shaykh to women as to men. So women also have to learn Torah in order to know what to do. Because women have all sorts of mitzvahs they have to do. Right? Okay. So that's the first level, right? Second level.
Learning the entire Torah.
Yediyas Torah. You have to know the whole Torah. Now this is shaykh only to men. Women are exempt from this and so can be calmer, right? Men have this unbelievable yoke called knowing all the Torah. And theoretically, we're supposed to learn Torah enough that we know all the Torah. What does that mean? That means we know all of Shas, and we know all of Shulchan Aruch, and we know all of Medrash, and we know all of Chassidus. Sort of a lot there to know. Okay, so, just basically, and there's a very famous Maharal about this, not relative to learning Torah, just relative to, the Maharal says that ultimately the purpose of a person is to get to the point that their neshama, he's talking spiritual development, right? That their neshama is so powerfully connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then Mamela, they leave their body like Eliyahu. Right? The neshama just leaves the body in a very peaceful way. Like, most people do not reach that level of spiritual attainment. Right? Even though, of course, the idea is to be down here in Eilam Hazeh doing mitzvahs, etc. Okay, that's true. But mitzad the neshama, so the neshama wants to connect to its source. So Eliyahu is the ultimate expression of that the neshama down here connecting to its source by virtue of the fact that Eliyahu's neshama just peacefully left his body and rejoined its, reconnected to its source. Okay. So theoretically, that's something that everybody could strive for, the Maharal says. That's the ultimate in tshuva. Tshuva meaning returning to your source in the most basic and simple way, literal way. So obviously, that's the fact that we know that about Eliyahu is because it was unusual, not because it happens every day. So the Maharal says, he brings the famous Maimer Chazal, Kol ha'heilich la'aseh mitzvah v'nenes, ma'ilov kilu aseh mitzvah. Anybody who's on their way to do a mitzvah and an accident befalls them, so it's as if they did the mitzvah. So if you're on your way to visit someone in the hospital who's sick and the bus breaks down, so it's oinus. I mean, you're not, what can you do? The bus broke down and you can't get to the hospital. So obviously relative to the person who was going to be visited in the hospital, so they didn't get the visit that they, I'm sure, would have liked. But relative to you and your obligation to go visit people, so it's as if you did visit someone, because what are you supposed to do? The bus broke down. Okay. Well, obviously the ikar is that person should be visited, but relative to your responsibility, you've basically fulfilled your responsibility. It's as if you fulfilled your responsibility because it was something beyond your control that didn't allow you to do that which you were trying to do. So too, the ultimate oinus. What's the ultimate oinus? That which is beyond our control, that tends to happen to most people at some point, hopefully at a later point as opposed to an earlier point.
Pass away.
They pass away, right? What if they're on their way to learning the whole Torah when that happened? And the Abe said, okay, no,
Wow.
that's what he was doing. That's what the Maharal says about trying to. The Maharal's talking in the context of ultimate tshuva shlema, where your neshama truly just returns to its source, right? Okay. So if a person's honestly involved in that enterprise, but they would need about 1,000 years to do it, and the Eibishter didn't give them 1,000 years, so say there. So that's the Eibishter's inyan, not theirs. Right? Okay. So how long will it take us to finish all of the Torah? About a couple of 1,000 years. Okay, say there. So if you do your best and sit down in an honest way and learn Torah, so say that. We'll see what happens in the end. Okay. Hopefully, there'll be no end. Mashiach will come, Chaim Nitzchim, and so. Okay, so there's that level of Talmud Torah. And then there was the third level of Talmud Torah, which was what? The halacha of Talmud Torah. Vagisa b'yemim v'layla. That this person is supposed to spend every spare moment. Again, this is men, not women, because men have the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Vagisa b'yemim v'layla. The person should spend every spare moment learning Torah. That if they have a spare moment, that moment should be spent learning Torah. That doesn't mean you don't eat. That doesn't mean you don't sleep. That doesn't mean you don't go to work. Right? As we learned later, there are certain hagbolas in the union of a yisabay and v'layla, depending on what the person does. But basically, a person should realize that learning Torah is something extremely important and something that should get done whenever it can get done. Okay, say this. So there were those three levels. Then we learned about the fourth level, and the fourth level was what? This is what we started, and we're having a hard time trying to figure out, right? I mean, it's very, very.
On some level, being so involved in Torah that you're almost oblivious to anything else.
Right, so there's the level beyond the halacha, beyond medida v'agbala, because the halacha of v'gisa yom v'layla does have certain limitations. There's times when you're potter, right? And then yesterday, so we learned about the fact that there's times when a person, there's a state of connection to the Torah where the person transcends limitation, right? And it's very, very hard to describe that and understand what that means, right? Because what does that mean? If halacha demands something, so I'm going beyond the letter of the law, okay. So if beyond the letter of the law is that I'm learning Torah in more of my free time, well, that's v'gisa b'yom and v'layla. Right? If I have free time, I should be spending that free time learning Torah. Right? Okay. Say that. So then what's this level beyond? So we brought a couple of examples. The Chassidim of the Mittler Rebbe, who the Mittler Rebbe asked us the Mittler Rebbe said his dream is that when two Chassidim meet in the street, they should have a conversation about. It's a question whether he was talking Yehudi, Lo Yehudi Tatar, some other aspect of Chassidus, but that they should have a discussion about Chassidus. What does that mean, a discussion about Chassidus? A discussion about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as opposed to a discussion about themselves. Right? They should talk about Chassidus, and Chassidus talks about the Eibishter. So some of his Chassidim were walking along, and they were deeply involved in learning Chassidus. It started to rain. They ducked into a house right beside them, and continued learning, continued discussing whatever they were discussing, and then the rain stopped. They walked outside, and they realized that the place they were in was a place that, l'chatchila, you probably shouldn't discuss Torah in that place. Right? Whatever it was, it's not clear from the story what it was. Right? Okay, so they were on their way to the Mittler Rebbe, so they went to the Mittler Rebbe, and they asked for a tikkun. They asked for something to fix this wrong thing they had done, that they were learning Torah in that place. And when they told him the whole story, so the Rebbe said, did you use your time well? So they said, yes. So he said, you don't need a tikka. Meaning the only reason that you didn't notice what it was because you were so involved in learning Torah that you didn't notice exactly what the sign above this house said. Right? So you don't need a tikkun for that. Right? The Rogachover discussing halacha when he was in Avelis, right? And told someone to go look at the Gemara in Kedushin, which the Rebbe quotes here, Oinus Shani, that someone who's in a situation where it's oinus, it's beyond their control. Right? So they say, again, we talked about this yesterday, they say about the Rogachover that he said about himself that there was one halacha in Shulchan Aruch he was over all the time, and that was thinking about Torah when he was in the place where you're not allowed to think about Torah, because he couldn't stop himself. So if that's your aveira, you're in pretty good shape. Okay, so we didn't get the yud. So we did, right? So here in Tes, and now continuing in yud. Wait, I'm sorry. We finished V'yesh Lo Hesif. We started Tes? Now I'm confused.
I think we started, I don't think we got through tests.
No, we didn't get through Tes. We're going to start doing Tes again. I'm sorry. Because there's two different, in the second paragraph in Ches is where the Rebbe discusses what we just discussed, about this what might be a fourth level of Hilchas Talmud Torah, which is really beyond Talmud Torah. It's beyond halacha. And then this is what we discussed yesterday, or it might very well just be that level that we discussed involved the third level of the Torah's the Eibishter. V'yesh leimar, see the test. V'yesh leimar, shachibur del yonim v'tachtonim. This unity of upper realms and lower realms, shenis chadesh b'matan Torah, hu mizgala be'ikar b'limud Torah l'shma. This is up until this point. We talked about this yesterday. Up until this point. Right, we got to the end of this and we said we have to deal with this slowly. I'm sorry. Up until this point, we said the most base, and this is how Matan Torah is understood, the most basic chiddush of Matan Torah, the yichud of Elyon and Tachton, the unity of spiritual and physical realms, is expressed in mitzvahs. Because in mitzvahs, you're taking the tachta and you're using physical reality and you're imbuing that physical reality with kedusha. And one of the most obvious chidushim of Matan Torah is that after Matan Torah, there can be something called the mitzvah object. There can be something called the chefetz de kedusha, something that was used for a mitzvah and therefore has kedusha. Tefillin. Tefillin are holy. What were they before they were turned into tefillin? They were cow. Right, so that cow has been elevated into something that actually has holiness and has to be treated in a certain way. When its use is finished, it can't be thrown in the garbage. It's a chefetz de kedusha, but that's only a reality after Matan Torah. Before Matan Torah, there was no way of imbuing physical reality with kedusha. The person himself could be elevated by virtue of doing that which he was doing, which was connecting to God's will, but the physical object that he was using for that had no kedusha whatsoever. That was before Matan Torah. And Matan Torah changed that, because the question arises, and we went through this earlier in the mind, the question arises, what do I need Matan Torah for? The Avos kept the whole Torah, so just tell the kids. Why do I need this event? What happened at Matan Torah that's new? And what happened was not the information. Avraham Avinu kept Shabbos. Loit ate matzah. That's what he fed the Malachim. So he was keeping Pesach, Rashi on Chumash. Why did Loit give the Malachim that came to visit him in Stoim? Why did he give them matzah? Rashi says Pesach Chaya. Rashi on Chumash, downtown Judaism. Right? Okay, midtown. So they kept the Torah, the others. So then why do I need to be told what the Torah is and what all these mitzvahs are? because something happened at Matan Torah that changed the metaphysical reality of this world. And what's that? That this world is now a kli for Elokus, is now a place that can be elevated and become a place of Kedusha. Until that time, that nothing could happen to physical reality. There was Elyon and Tachten, and never the twain shall meet. And then all of a sudden, there's a chibur of both, a chibur of Elyon and Tachten, and the chiddush that the Rebbe told us at the beginning of the Maimer was that the Elyon is still Elyon, and the Tachten is still Tachten, and yet they meet. Right? It's not that they're bottle, it's not that they stop being Elyon and stop being Tachten. They are what they are, and yet they're able to relate one to the other and live in harmony. Right? And that's because of the revelation of a level beyond both. Atzmus Od Ein Sof, Torah. Okay. The Iker is in mitzvahs. That's actually everything we just talked about was Maisa mitzvahs, taking a physical object and elevating it to a state of Kedusha. Right? Okay. The piece of paper that I didn't give out to anybody because I don't have any left. So that piece of paper, right? This piece of paper, well, this one was learned, obviously, by virtue of the fact that the paper, now this piece of paper, I assume no one learned from it. That means it has no Kedusha. That means it can be thrown in the garbage. This piece of paper, I assume someone learned from it since it, right, the page is turned over, right? So this piece of paper was elevated by virtue of the fact that that Jew learned from it, and it can't be thrown in the garbage. It should be put in Geniza. Why can this one be put in the garbage? We don't, but it can be. Why? It's no Shem Hashem. No God. God's name isn't on this. It's simply a facsimile of a holy book. It itself has no holiness. It's a picture of something holy. Okay, what if someone learned it? He just transformed it into something holy, which is quite an amazing thing that you and I are able to do. Change the metaphysical reality of a piece of paper. It's quite astounding. Okay, so but that's a post-Matan Torah thing. And that's mitzvah, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. It's mitzvah, the mitzvah of it. Okay, so generally would I understand this in terms of mitzvahs. Now the Rebbe is going to say, and this is the chiddush that's coming up now in the Maimer, all of this to understand the question that we asked at the beginning of the Maimer, which is why is it that Mesiras Nefesh B'Foil is necessary in order to have a complete acceptance of the Torah, which is Purim, as opposed to the Mesiras Nefesh B'Koyach, the potential Mesiras Nefesh at the time of Matan Torah, Naaseh V'Nishma. That's what all of this is coming to explain, and we're getting very close to that. We're going to start answering that in Yud. All right, now that I was explaining how, on a certain level, the Iker expression of the Chibur of Elyon and Tachten is Dafka in Talmud Torah, not in mitzvahs. On a certain aspect. V'yesh lemer, the Chibur of Elyon and Tachtenim shenischadish b'Matan Torah, this unity of Elyon and Tachten that was brought about at Matan Torah, who Mizgala Beker is revealed essentially b'limud Torah Lishma, in this level of learning Torah that we just described. And this is very difficult, this piece. The Neisef al Zeh, and in addition to this, in order to bring about the unity of two states of reality which are mitzad themselves opposite. So how can I do that? And it's about the revelation of a state of reality that's beyond Elyon and Tachten, right? What was the mashal that we've used to explain that countless times? How do you bring about the unity of two opposite realities? I guess it hasn't been countless enough. You guys, what's going on here today? You guys, Mela that I'm completely out to lunch, but you guys too, usually you guys are on the ball and I'm the one who's half asleep here.
Magnets?
You're fair, magnets, right? I have a North Pole and a North Pole, and naturally they repel each other, right? So how can I bring together these two things which are naturally opposite of each other, so to speak? I'm more powerful than them. I can push them together with no problem. Okay. A simple example of something that also relates to how it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings about the unity of spiritual and physical reality, which are naturally two completely different states of reality. To put it slightly differently, how can the Eibishter bring about the synthesis of infinite and finite?
By being infinitely more powerful than either.
Okay, but that word infinite is wrong, right? By being beyond infinite. It's beyond infinite, right? But, right, 100%, exactly. It's beyond infinite. The average is not infinite. Don't say God's infinite. Godly light is infinite. God himself is not infinite because infinite's limited. Generally, what can't infinite do? Express itself in finite. God's not limited in any way, shape, or form. So he's beyond infinite. An idea that's so important to understand that it comes up, it must come up once a week. Right? Why? It just has to be something that's munach in my seichel. Right? God's not infinite. Right? Godly light is infinite. But God himself is beyond infinite. Okay, so that level, beyond infinite, brings about the synthesis of infinite and finite, such that infinite remains infinite and finite remains finite. But somehow they connect to each other. What's the example of that the Rebbe said? Okay, so if this cup becomes a chefetz de kedusha, so it doesn't stop being physical. It's still a physical cup, but all of a sudden it's holy. Okay. And what about the kedusha that's now imbued in this cup? Does the kedusha become physical? No. Kedusha is not physical, it's still kedusha. It's still, metaphysical, godly reality. Okay, but somehow those two things have come into synthesis in this cup, if this cup is a chefetz de kedusha, which it's not. The fact that it's kind enough to hold my coffee doesn't turn it into a chefetz de kedusha. I'm very enamored by the cup. I'm very grateful to the cup. Right? Don't want to be that guy, right, Doc? That guy who had a dream that he was giving a speech in the House of Lords and he woke up and he was. I don't want to be that guy. This cup of coffee is helping very much. All right, okay. I like that smile, Lev. Even though you're from south of the border, you actually understood what I was talking about. It's so often that Americans, you say the House of Lords, they don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, what the House of Lords? Right? Because it's very kind. It's very nice to see that there's still some hope. Right? Not that you have to know what the House of Lords is. It's good to know what happens in countries other than my own. It's like, a useful thing. And, it did all start there, in all fairness. And you have to give them some credit. Right? They have a great credit, the British, and everybody in this room has benefited from it. Their colonies were all left in very good shape. And if you lived in one of the former British colonies, you live a normal life, generally in a democratic system with a reasonable financial organization, etc., etc. Which you have to give the Brits credit for that. If you think of where they were and what they left, everywhere they left in an orderly way. The French, disaster. Spanish, disaster. Portuguese, worse. All right, it's interesting, no? You got to give it's hard to give the English credit, I know that, but you have to give them credit. Canada's normal, Australia's normal, New Zealand's normal, America's normal, Hong Kong is normal, India is normal, relatively, right? It's the biggest democracy in the world. No, it's a crazy place. There's 1 billion people, right? But it's the biggest democracy in the world, and it's got the biggest middle class in the world. So, that's pretty good. I don't know, maybe it doesn't have the biggest middle class anymore. Maybe China does, because I don't know what China's called. I don't know what that's called No, I don't see. I just don't know what that's called middle class. But you have to give the Brits credit. Come on. They can't win a World Cup, but that they can do. They can, the poor Brits. The nice if I'll say. Now, there's a very, very difficult idea here that I'm avoiding because it's very difficult. The nice of al zeh, shekadei sheyuchel liyos achiber delyon tachtenim hu al yedei bittul hageter delyon v'tachten. It's through the nullification of the getter of elyon v'tachten al yedei hamshachas ar ein sof by virtue of drawing down a level of godly light shelamayla mishneim that's beyond both. Okay, so now, when we say it's the bittul of the getter of elyon v'tachten, that contradicts what we said before, because we said before that they remain elyon and tachten. So the Rebbe clearly doesn't mean that they stop being elyon and stop being tachten, but they stop being an elyon that can't be revealed in tachten, and they stop being a tachten that can't reveal elyon. Why? By virtue of the revelation of something beyond both, which is taka. On that level, there's a bittul of elyon and tachten. And that level of our Ein Sof, there is no reality of upper level, lower level. There's just a level of absolute achdus, oneness, unity. Kanal Siftal, like we said earlier. Shedugmose ba'adam. How does a person reach this level? It's a very, very subtle thing the Rebbe is saying here. It's very hard to wrap your head around it. Shedugmose ba'adam. This state of the unity of Elyon and Tachton, and therefore the bittul of the gather of Elyon and Tachton by virtue of drawing down something beyond both. Hu kishoisik b'Torah l'shema. So when a person learns the Torah like that level that the Rebbe explained at the end of last year, and we chazur today, sha'az hu b'bittul ha'metzias. Then he's in a state of complete bittul, complete nullification to the Eibishter. Hein b'negei laguf, both regarding his guf, Tachton, vein b'negei l'neshama, Elyon. Meaning, why is he learning Torah? Is he learning Torah mitzad his guf? No. Is he learning Torah mitzad his neshama? No. He's learning Torah only mitzad the Torah. He's learning Torah mitzad that third level that brings about the unity of the guf and the neshama, which interestingly enough, the Rebbe also said, not in our mimer, but when we looked in the written mimer that the Rebbe wrote in Tafshin Yud Aleph, that short little synopsis that the Rebbe wrote of this mimer. So the Rebbe writes that one of the Chidushim of Matan Torah was also the Hebrew of Guf and Neshama, meaning that what happened when a Jew did a mitzvah, when Avram Avinu did a mitzvah before Matan Torah, what happened? His Guf and Neshama weren't united? No? But the Rebbe says that one of the Chidushim was also the unity of the Guf and Neshama at Matan Torah. Okay. But that being said, when a Jew learns Torah on this level, the level that was described at the end of Ches, so then he's not learning Torah mitzad his guf, and he's not learning Torah mitzad his neshama, he's learning Torah mitzad the Torah. So he brings about a state where both of those states of reality are incorporated equally in a state higher than both of them. Then this unity of Elyon and Tachton is misgala, is revealed b'limud zeh. That doesn't mean misgala, that a person looking at him will understand that that's what's going on. No, but what's being expressed by a person learning Torah based on the level that the Rebbe expresses in the end of Ches. Beyond Elyon, beyond Tachton. He's not learning Torah mitzad his guf, he's not learning Torah mitzad his neshama, he's learning Torah mitzad the Torah, which brings about a complete unity of those two states of reality.
How many people can do that?
My Uncle Morty. He was on fire. How many people can appreciate that that's what Torah is? Anybody who learns the Maimon.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are going to reach that level?
Yeah.
They will, they won't. They'll at least appreciate it, and then every other level that they're on will be imbued with a certain level of kedusha, understanding that this is what it's really all about. Don't say anything else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people, when they hear stories about people like Rav Mendel, get very upset. Say, "But I'm not Rav Mendel." You know, we didn't tell the story about you. We told the story about Rav Mendel. Right? If we hear a story about a chassid who's acting in a way that's just beyond anything I can ever imagine doing, so there's two reactions. I mean, I'm sure there's ein sof reactions, but I mean there's two basic reactions. I'm threatened by it because it makes me feel small. Or I'm uplifted by it by virtue of the fact that even though I'm not holding there, I can appreciate that that's what truth is. And we have to be the second person. Is that who I am? But is there such a thing? That's very uplifting. Now it can be threatening, okay, but then I mean it for myself, which we all are to a certain degree. I mean, we're there and we're making a lot of noise in our own lives. Right? Okay, but I can push that part of me to the side and come to a point where I just appreciate the kedusha of it, that there are people like Rav Mendel, and that's uplifting. Am I that? I'm not that. Would I like to be that? Well, I guess not enough, because I don't work hard enough to become that. But would I like to, do I write that? Do I want to want? I don't want to be Rav Mendel, because if I want to be Rav Mendel, so I'd work hard, and I wouldn't become Rav Mendel, but I could become, whoever I'm supposed to become. Fine. Right? So, but might I want to want that? Okay, hopefully at least I want to want that. So that's a step in the right direction. And then certain things happen in life. Right? Certain things happen in life, and we progress, and we give the Eibishter a little nachas by virtue of what we do. Always, not always. Sometimes we give the Eibishter a lot of agmas nefesh by virtue of what we do. Right? When we make too much noise in our own lives, the Eibishter looks at us and goes, "What are you doing?" Okay. And when we somehow make Eibishter noise in our lives, so it's okay. Oh, Baruch Hashem. And if enough of us make enough Eibishter noise in our lives, the whole world will be a place of Eibishter noise. Right? Oh, he's agreeing. Right? Okay. There's a big Eibishter out there. Torah's true. I remember once saying in a Farbrengen with the Sem girls. These are girls who grew up in from homes, Lubavitch homes. They're good girls. They made it to a Sem that that accepts so-called top girls, whatever that means. But okay, I mean, girls who manage to do well in high school and do what they're supposed to do, etc., etc. Right? Okay. So. I don't know, we were just Farbrengen. It was like, late at night in the Farbrengen, and I said it just sort of in a fit of, whatever. Like, the Eibishter really created the world. He really took us out of Mitzrayim. There were really Eser Makers. There was really Kriyas Yamsuf, and there was really Matan Torah. And the girl goes, whoa. I don't think she'd ever thought of that in her life. That all of this stuff really happened. Now, if it really happened, so then my life's different. Am I living up to what I should be living up to by understanding that it really happened? We don't have to play show and tell. Talk to your mashpia. Right? Okay, but is there an appreciation if that's what it's all about? Yeah. And what isn't it about? And I don't mean in this horrible, negative, down, depressed way. In an uplifting way. It's not about me. It's just not about me. It's about things so much bigger and so much grander and so much more beautiful. Doesn't mean I'm not big and grand and beautiful. I am. Why? Because God created me and God don't make junk. That being said, there's things bigger than me and more important than me. And that's very hard for my Nefesh Abamis to wrap its head around. Because my Nefesh Abamis just wants to be the star of the show. His favorite word is I. We've said how many times we're speaking a language that capitalizes that anywhere in every sentence. I is always capitalized. You is not capitalized, but I is always capitalized. And that was proper English. Not I am capitalized. I is capitalized. Okay, so then I have to deal with that. And I can get all hung up and depressed because I'm not holding by that. So then it's just the same thing over and over again. Right? I'm not where I should be, so I'm getting all depressed about that. Well, that's the most powerful expression of the fact that I'm not where I should be. Because I'm getting all hung up in where I am. Right? I have to break free from that. Hard? Well, I agree. But there's no option in terms of living a real life. If I'm stuck in that place, I'm just going to be, spinning my wheels in the mud all the time. Right? Doesn't mean I won't get somewhere, but I'm not. So how do I get out of that? Well, one of the things the Rebbe says, get out of it by learning Torah and connecting to what Torah really is, and then what? And then I can actually, even if only for a fleeting moment, I'm learning Torah because the Torah is the Eibishter's Torah. So at that fleeting moment, I brought about a yichud of Elyon and Tachton, which affects me. And one of the things the Rebbe said is that limud Torah, earlier in the Mimer, after Matan Torah, limud Torah can affect the person. Meaning before Matan Torah, Limud Torah was Wikipedia. It's just a bunch of information. After Matan Torah, learning Torah can affect your Nefesh Bahamis. Whoa. We'd all like to change more, right? But there's changes that happen and they're real. Of course, I'd like it to be complete and total. Keep hanging in there, but stay there, see what happens. Weird talking about yesterday. You look at the other person, you always see more change. Well, because you know what's going on in that inside, right? Okay, so with yourself, you know what's going on inside. Okay, so you might be less impressed with the changes you've made in your life. That doesn't mean they're not real. That doesn't mean that they haven't affected you and the world around you in a very positive way. Right? Could there be more? Of course there can be more. And anybody who says there can't just has no clue as to who they are and what reality is. Okay. I'm saying that there can always be more. But that doesn't mean that we can't celebrate what's been and strive for more. And it doesn't have to be depressing, and it doesn't have to be... If it is depressing, then it's not going to get anywhere. Because all depression is me getting into me. Right? So then I'm not going to get anywhere with that.
Yep.
Trying to move it back. Can we do that? If we look at it. We did that once in a Farbrengen here. One of the first years of Mayanot, we had a Farbrengen that was great. It was like 12 guys in the Yeshiva. It was the second year of the Yeshiva. There were 12 guys. It was basically all JSP. But the room was packed for a huge Shvat Farbrengen. It was going very, very well. And a lot of Balabatim there. And they were all going to leave at 11:30. So in the middle of one of the dances, someone was lifted up and took the clock and turned it back an hour. And that was done twice in the context of the Farbrengen, and the place was packed until 1:32 in the morning. No one wanted to go home. They just were looking at the clock going, oh, it's like 11:30, I should go home. But it wasn't. It was only 10:30. Oh, wait, no one thought to go like that. But whatever, Baruch Hashem. It worked. Okay, let's try to finish the paragraph quickly. It's a hard paragraph. Who bebitl matzias ain't benagel leguf, ain't benagel leneshama. Why? Because he's not learning Torah mitzad his guf, he's not learning Torah mitzad his neshama, he's learning his Torah mitzad the Torah, so he's revealing that level. And he gam achibur del yonim tachni atzmam, he's gala b'limud zeh. Sixth line. Shabilti gvul de Torah. The infinite aspect of Torah, el yonim, peil ala adam, affects a person, tachtoidim, that his learning Torah will be beyond Agbola. So now it's interesting. If the Rebbe didn't have that word El Yonim in brackets, you'd think that how Bilti Gvul the Torah would be the etzim of the Torah. But no, this is the Hebrew of this. It's an amazing chiddush. This is the Hebrew of the infinite and the finite, right? That the infinite nature of Torah, which is El Yonim, not etzim. Not the essence, the Elyon, the spiritual, godly realm, that aspect of the Torah affects the Tachton, which is the person down here, so that his Torah can be beyond limitation, meaning relative to the third level. V'yesh lahoisif, dal yedei shabilti gvul de Torah, by virtue of the fact that the unlimited nature of Torah, payil gamba adam, affects a person. When you and I are learning Torah, we're touching something that's beyond the reality that we usually experience. It's clothed in that reality. It's expressed and revealed to us in that reality. But the Torah itself is not of that reality. It's coming from a higher place. Chapter 5 in Tanya. Dal Yadesha bilti gvul de Torah. Peil ala gamba adam. It affects the person who's learning the Torah. Val derech zeh, and by virtue of this, al yedei yuridus Torah lamata b'chlal, by virtue of the descent of the Torah below. That descent is affected by virtue of the fact that the person's learning Torah properly, meaning he's not allowing that descent of the Torah to define the Torah. Even though he's learning the Torah, you might think the Torah is all about building fences in between neighbors. Okay, there's no question that that's what the Torah is talking about. But what's being revealed in that conversation? Elokus. Not civil law, even though it's expressed in that context. Property law. It's property law. That's what it is. It is property law. There's no question. And that property law is real, and it has to do with what's going on and with my neighbor in Olam Hazeh Gashmi. And if there aren't 8 amos there, so then I can't make a division. Okay, all that's true, but what is that all really? It's all just Elokus. It's all the Eibishter. It's all the Elyon. And a Jew can be sensitive to that. Mizgala built the Torah Yeshiva. So then the unlimited nature of Torah is revealed even more when the person appreciates the unlimited aspect of Torah. As opposed to thinking that Torah is just another subject like biology. There's physics and there's Torah and there's biology. Which do I like best? I like biology best. He likes physics best, and this guy likes Torah best. Physics is astounding. And much of it is explaining the Tachton. It's not Elokus. It's explaining Elokus, but it itself is not Elokus. And it's only explaining Elokus if you're sensitive to the fact that it's explaining Elokus. Otherwise, you'll just think it's explaining a bunch of physical phenomena. But it's absolutely mind-blowing. Right, the Eibishter is mind-blowing. The Eibishter created the world in an absolutely mind-blowing way. But don't get stuck only in the Tachton and say that what am I going to do? I'm going to learn biology because biology is absolutely astounding and I see God's hand in everything I'm learning. Good, great. But that's all Mamale, that's all Tachton. You can also sit and learn Baba Basra, and you can also sit and learn a Immerse Chassidus, and that's not Tachton. It's in Tachton, but it's not Tachton. It's beyond Tachton. So that's what creates the true Hebrew. Physics is all niflo to bareh. Biology is all niflo to bareh. It's the wonders of the Creator. There's no question. That's what it is. It's all mamale. Sunsets are beautiful. But that's mamale. It's limited, finite, created reality, which is amazing. There's so much more beyond that. So I always find it, it's so interesting in most of the places that we live in. Not all of them, but most of them. If you have to daven mincha, you turn your back to the beautiful sunset on the ocean. When you go to the ocean to enjoy the afternoon, and then you have to daven mincha. Oh, I'm going to watch the sunset while I daven. Nope. Turn your back to it. You have to look the other way. Why? Because as beautiful as that is, someone who's learning Torah and stops and says, oh, what a beautiful tree. What does it say in Pirkei Avos? Mischayev b'nafshe. Now, that can be explained positively, right? But it's also a simple shot. Has he done something positive or negative? Something negative. Why? What are you leaving Elokus and getting stuck in a tree? God created the tree. I know God created the tree, but that's Gashmias. It's Mamale. It's Or Mamale. It's beautiful. It's incredible. Botany. I forgot botany. You shouldn't just learn biology and physics. I was learning botany. Amazing. It's all Elokus. Seder. It's all Elokus. With layer after layer after layer after layer of covering. This is Elokus with no layers. It's just Pashut the Eibishter. So, of course, I learning physics, learning biology, learning botany. Why not? I don't understand. That's reasonable stuff to learn as long as it's learned the right way, right? Especially if it's learned to make a living. But where do I want to really stick my head? Torah, because that's God. V'yesh la'isif, dal yedei sha'bil tigvul t'Torah pe'el gam ba'adam, v'al derech she'al yedei readers Torah lamata b'chalal, mizgala bil tigvul t'Torah yesem. Then we see even more the unlimited nature of Torah, that it can affect limited reality and connect limited reality to unlimited reality. That which the Torah is unlimited. Is not only on the level of the Torah itself, so to speak, above. Ella shimimsheches gam lamata. The unlimited nature of Torah is also drawn down below. V'gam b'hamshachosa lamata. And also, as it's drawn down below, nirgash begilui habilti gvul shaba. It's felt in a revealed way the unlimited nature of it. To the extent, the Rebbe explains in a beautiful mimer from also Tafshin Yud Aleph, Lag B'Emer Tafshin Yud Aleph. The Rebbe explains the meaning of Tiferes Shebetiferes is when a Yid says, "Uy, look how amazing the Torah is, and the Torah can be pale on a human being. Look how the Torah can affect a human being." He's just finds the Torah so beautiful by virtue of its ability to affect the human and turn a human into something edel and something holy. Lamata nirgash begilu abilti gvul sheba shegam limud Torah shel adam hu ba'ifin the bilti gvul. Even the learning Torah of a person can be bilti gvul. Okay, we have to see footnote 76, 75 and 76 tomorrow, and we also have to explain what the Rebbe just said, that even though it comes below, even though it's not in its place, it still maintains its infinite reality, as opposed, obviously, to other states of reality, where the Ein Sofiyut of it, once it finds itself in a different place, so to speak, so then that's concealed. We'll talk about that tomorrow. The most obvious example is Eilam Atzilus. The Ein Sofiyut of Eilam Atzilus is only an Eilam Atzilus. Once that level of reality descends below into Bria, it's no longer Atzilus. It's no longer what it was. Torah is Torah no matter where it is. That's why it elevates us.